Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
You're listening to Inside OUTA.
Welcome to Inside OUTA, our weekly podcast that gives you insight into how we at OUTA promote civil activism and active citizenship. We do this by tackling conversations that drive our democracy further. I'm your host, Bernadette Bule, and this is Inside OUTA. Today we speak all things SETA with our Special Projects Portfolio Manager, Dominique Msibi, who will be giving us an update on some of the OUTA special projects and the latest press release regarding the services SETA corruption. Dominique, welcome to the show once again. Thank you for taking the time.
Morning, Bernadette, and thank you for the opportunity.
Always a pleasure to have you. So, Dominique, we recently released a statement. OUTA has found that Services SETA is running a 29-month contract worth at least $162 million for buying equipment, which apparently hasn't been delivered or doesn't work, and for paying learner stipends to bogus businesses. This is actually something that amounts to fraud. Now, the contract with the service provider, which hides behind another company's name and sends the payments offshore, apparently is paying more to buy equipment than invoiced by the SETAs. How exactly is the Services SETA contract corrupt? Please, can you break it down for us?
The SETA contract is corrupt fundamentally and basically because the rules of the PFMA framework are not followed at all. Okay. Now, we need to remember that these rules basically address the procurement processes that government entities in particular have to go through in order to procure services of any kind where money and funds are being used to pay for the services. And the SETA in this instance did not do that. Other areas that we can look at is the period of the tender advertisement, which has a specific duration of time, but this tender was closed before the expiry date of submissions was actually reached.
Wow.
And then there's no proof of adjudication in terms of the internal SOE's duties to adjudicate, to have an adjudication committee that adjudicates all of the tender runs that are being they contemplate using. So, and the lack of governance, really, because there should be governance procedures and policies in place that ought to pick up such abnormal occurrences when and as they happen during the procurement process.
So essentially they didn't follow best practice or even their own internal processes?
Absolutely not.
Now, with the unemployment rate sitting at 26.7%, how does this corruption affect the youth unemployment rate?
That's the saddest part of all these shenanigans that have to do with trying to improve the skills of our labor pool. That labor pool acquisition of skills is compromised in this instance because they're not getting the training that they ought to be getting from either service providers or internally on the job experience within companies. They're being robbed of that. So their skills are not improving. And the consequence of that is that their quality of lives are not improving. The quality of lives of their extended families is not affected positively at all. So that affects the employment rate. The employment rate in this country is crazy, something like 29%. That is unheard of because it keeps rising year after year after year because there are no mitigating factors like training, like skilling that will mitigate the continuous increase of that unemployment rate. And over and above that, the youth are not meaningfully engaged because they're not contributing to the economy.
Yeah.
They continue to be marginalized as these practices are perpetuated.
And especially with the fourth industrial revolution that's actually on the rise globally, it's actually setting our South African youth back. I mean, you talked about the unemployment rate. This is just on a national level. We're not talking about youth unemployment, which is sitting at 54%.
Absolutely. It's tragic because we are setting up for a lifelong pattern of underachieving, of failing. That becomes their reality, and that becomes what they live with every day, and contributes to many things like your crime and everything else that we're complaining about in this country.
Absolutely. We're essentially stealing from the future of our youth. Now, Dominique, with this report that's been released, what are we hoping to achieve with it?
Several issues,
Sure.
and they may not be listed in sequence and succession on this list, but they're all exceedingly important.
Yeah.
First of all, we would like to see the immediate suspension of the Grayson Reed contract, pending the outcome of the investigation. That is a start. Do not let them continue to work as if they have been. Continue to work when the contract is not legal. We would like to see the learners that have lost out on the payments that they deserve according to the contracts that they make with the SETA. We'd like those learners to be paid out. I can't even say reimbursement because there was no money laid out by them in prior to the contract being, or at the signing of the contract.
Yeah.
They just need to be paid, period. We'd like a recovery of the misappropriated funds, whatever form or shape that takes. We would like to see criminal charges being laid on the perpetrators if it is that they are found guilty. Because what we always need to keep at the back of our minds are these are allegations until investigation proves them otherwise. We would also like to have the National Treasury's Chief Procurement Officer do an investigation regarding the processes, the procurement processes that resulted in this supplier being appointed.
Yeah.
We would like to see an urgent overhaul of the SETAs. And that overhaul needs to happen immediately.
Sure.
Because we cannot afford to wait for the planned reassessment of the SETAs, which will only happen in March of 2020. This change needs to be immediate.
Yeah.
And that's it on that question.
So we know that the procurement processes were flawed. How is it meant to work? How are the SETAs meant to work?
To put it simply and straightforward, the SETAs are supposed to close the current skills gap.
Sure.
And I don't think I need to elaborate on that because all of the questions above address that in one way or the other. And to ensure the sustainability of this closing of the gap, because it doesn't help if they get beaten up and they perform for 6 months, a year, and there's no sustainability to the whole plan.
Okay. So if I'm sitting in a situation where I'm a student and I haven't been paid my stipend, how does one expose their local SETAs if they're not being provided the services they're meant to be provided for?
Interestingly enough, several students have gone and complained to the media in their relevant areas.
Sure.
However, OUTA has a whistleblower platform, which is very user-friendly.
Sure.
You can just go onto that platform on the OUTA website
Okay.
and lodge your complaint with us, and we will investigate from there.
Okay. Well, we're nearing the year end, and a lot of plans in terms of education from students are coming to an end. And especially with January, we see a huge rise in students suddenly setting goals. This is what I want to do for the year. What are your words to the Minister of Education, Minister of Higher Education, in terms of the corruption we've unraveled at the SETAs?
Okay. The greed and the culture of impunity that is being exercised by alleged perpetrators flies in the face of the Constitution of South Africa.
Yeah.
There are rights that are entrenched in the Constitution regarding to how we treat each and every sector of our society and our population. And those are simply being spat on by the perpetrators.
So we're calling on our ministers to look into the matter, to ensure that the future of our youth are not being robbed through this corruption, yes?
Absolutely, but not only look into.
Yes.
Look into and act
Correct, yeah.
on your findings.
Act, absolutely. Dominique, it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, education is something that is close to my heart, and I know is also very close to your heart. Are there any other projects that we should look out for that you're working on?
To continue simplifying this conversation, more on higher education. Which specifically means more on the SETAs, as that is the focus of our investigations right now. And remember, Bernadette, that there's not 1 or 2 or 3 SETAs that we're talking about. We're talking about 21.
Oh my gosh.
This is an approximately 24-month plan for us,
Yes.
or even possibly beyond that.
Absolutely. Well, if you'd like to listen and give us feedback on the interview, visit our website at outa.co.za and our social media pages at OUTA. Thank you for your time, Dominique.
It's only a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We'll be back and we'll be speaking to Yamkela Ntula, who's our portfolio manager on the water and environment, and we'll be talking to him about all things water and environment that have been affecting our society. Stay tuned.
Less corruption, more accountability. Stay tuned to Inside OUTA.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. brandlive.co.za.
Welcome back to Inside OUTA. We gave you an update from our special projects portfolio. Up next, we have our water and sanitation portfolio manager, Yamkela Ntula, giving us an update and progress on some of his projects. Yamkela, thank you for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you for having me, Bernadette.
Welcome to our show. Now, Inside OUTA's progress reports give our supporters a quick update on the work that OUTA is doing. The Water and Environment portfolio was launched in 2017 and has quickly grown to 7 projects. Talk to us about your portfolio, the impact it's had in our democracy or in society, and some of the projects you're working on.
Sure. Thank you very much, Bernadette. So the inception of the Water and Environment portfolio, as you correctly mentioned, was in 2017. And the thinking from there on was to obviously extend OUTA's ambit of impact as far as combating corruption as well as maladministration. Thus far, we've had 7 projects, as you also correctly indicate, and some of our biggest successes thus far has been to expose the significant underspending or overspending rather with regards to the eradicating bucket toilet systems in South Africa, as well as bringing to light gross administration in South Africa's water boards, which we made a submission to Parliament on that. Another project that we hope to obviously work in tandem with the Department of Water Sanitation is proposing perhaps an independent water regulation very similar to NERSA when it comes to energy.
That's pretty interesting, and well done on the work that you've done in terms of exposing some of the corruption within these water boards. Another project that I understand sits within your portfolio is the Aurora Director's Criminal Investigation. It's been long overdue, 10 to 11 years. What's happening with this project?
Yeah, so with regards to this project, the Aurora directors were in violation of their water use license in the mine which they were undertaking extracting activities. So what was supposed to happen 10 years ago is that they were supposed to be charged in terms of our criminal legislation for being in violation of that license. What we have done since we've taken on the project was to apply pressure with the National Prosecuting Authority to prosecute and have been on the verge of even informing them that we are willing to privately prosecute the matter. We have, however, received very good feedback thus far, indicating that they have already sent a directive to the senior public prosecutor in Springs, who will then undertake the process. So we're currently following up, and we hope that those who are obviously in contravention of the law are brought to book.
So essentially, it's let's put pressure, let's work together, and get this project out the way.
Yes, of course. That's always the intention. I mean, it can't be normal in any society where one contravenes the law and steps be taken 10 years later. So, our role thus far has been to apply the necessary pressures to law enforcement agencies to actually do, what they've been put in place to do.
Great. The Citybang Regional Sanitation Scheme is a project where OUTA is making the submissions to the South African Human Rights Commission. What are we hoping to achieve with this project? And talk to me about what it's about, first of all, what we are hoping to achieve and how far we've gone with it.
Sure. So the Human Rights Commission is currently having an inquiry looking into the pollution in the Vaal region.
Okay.
And what that inquiry basically entails is that they will be investigating, how are people impacted by the pollution, how are businesses impacted by the pollution, what was the role of provincial and national government with regards to the incident, and then establish whether or not what's happening there does amount to a violation of particularly Section 24 of the Constitution, which is the right to a healthy environment.
Yeah.
Now, our contribution to that as a civil action organization is to make submissions, both oral and written. We have made oral submissions earlier this year. We are in the process of making written submissions, and those are to the effect as to indicate, at least to the Commission, what has contributed to the pollution in the Vaal. And we are looking specifically in this project on the Citybang Regional Sanitation Scheme, which was a project that was supposed to install wastewater treatment works in certain areas in the region, and a successful implementation of this project may have seen less pollution, perhaps even no pollution in the Vaal. So that will be the nature of our submission, to aid, obviously, the Commission. We make no findings, we draw no conclusions to it. We merely assist the Commission in undertaking its constitutional mandate.
Fantastic. You're listening to OUTA, and we've just had Yamkela on the show. Before we let him go, Yamkela, any parting words or encouragement to our supporters?
Oh, yes, thank you. I don't know if I can encourage you guys enough, because I think you guys are doing a great job. I would, however, like to extend my gratitude in all the support that we have been receiving. Obviously, more support is always more welcome, but it's because of your support that we are able to do our jobs effectively. And it's your encouragement that enables us to wake up every morning and fight corruption and maladministration. So thank you very much from my side.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time, Yamkela, for sitting with us. If you'd like to give us feedback on this interview, visit our website, outa.co.za, and our social media pages on Twitter and Facebook at OUTA-SA. Join us next week. I'm your host, Bernadette, and I look forward to continuing our conversation.
Thanks for listening to Inside OUTA. Tune in next week when we delve deeper into undoing tax abuse.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za